Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Great to have you with us. Despite our best efforts with you in the transfer portal, you're still here.
Tell you, there was heating up yesterday. There was rumors that I was in the portal.
I know. I started them.
I know.
You're telling me I'm the one that started the rumors. I was just trying to force the situation. No big deal. So right now we know of two. We know Keandre Lambert-Smith and Malik Mega. Let me say this about Mega for a moment. Great athlete. I mean, really a fabulous athlete. I mean, can run. But he's also one of the nicest guys I've been around. Right? No, at least with me. I'm talking, I'm going to miss having him around. Just as Malik Mega. He's just, if any team were to say, hey, what kind of character does this guy have? All right. But I think he sees the numbers and everything like that. And he's looking around. Okay. So, hey, I hope he lands in a great spot and they're going to get a person with a great personality who's, always smiling. He's fought through some injuries here, and he is now in the portal. And the portal is, for this particular year, has a lot of names in it, yet still you feel like it's in its infancy.
Mm-hmm. No question.
For this particular year.
Definitely. For
this particular cycle. It runs 15 days, and we're only a couple of days into it. So it is welcome to the buckle up time. Here we go. And it's just, it is completely different than anything we can imagine. And not only that, it didn't take long for look, football has exponentially more players than basketball does, for obvious reasons. I mean, it may have a third of the Division I teams, but the roster size, in terms of, just in pure scholarship, 85-13. I mean, come on, there's 72 more scholarship players, right? And it, it used to be that you'd go and there'd be, 1,500 to 2,000 players in the basketball transfer portal. Well, it hasn't taken long for 1,500 to 2,000 football players to be in the transfer portal in a given year. And what's interesting is not everybody has a landing spot. And I always love when I hear somebody say, well, they have to do something about that. Do something about what? Okay. Now, some of these are, there's no question, some of these are, you might be better served going someplace else. I mean, you're not
Absolutely.
there's not a lot of upward mobility here for you so far. Right? So there may be those conversations. And then there are others that sit there and go, no, I'm going. Right? And say they don't find a landing spot. Well, somebody has to do something about that guy. Oh, over here in the back, excuse me, but they made the decision themselves. No. Right? Let's look at your life as an adult. You made a decision to do something or not do something. What are the pros and cons of it? Right? If you want to get NIL and be an adult, and you make the decision, or in conjunction make the decision with your family, and there's either not a great landing spot, or maybe in some cases no landing spot. And I'm not sitting here to be cruel. It's called real life.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm reacting to the people who say something has to be done about that. Like, no, nothing has to be done about that. No,
something has to be done about NIL. Nothing has to be done about this.
Right. I mean, I'm just saying when people say that, that you need to do something for guys that don't find a landing spot or you have to go down in a landing spot. No. Sorry,
no,
but
I don't agree.
Again, if it's your decision, if it was something where you were told, hey, look, now I understand the pros and cons of that, but some of these guys make a decision, you're like, you get confused by it, like, why did you make that decision? Then they end up in a non-preferred landing spot, or it's a couple of them with no landing spot. Sorry, I don't. You made the decision. You were told there was a spot for you, and you decided you didn't want the spot. You gave up the spot someplace else. Well, something has to be done. Like, no, not really.
No, I agree.
No. And I mean, but the guys that, like, for the most part, like, if you're a Penn Stater, you find one. And the basketball transfer portal is going on. Penn State's been able to get 2 out of it so far. I mean, it was really 2 of the guys that were right out of the gate were priorities for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I'm talking like they wanted them right out of the gate. These are the 2 guys right out of the gate they wanted in terms of their front court. And now they'll look at other areas. And there you go. John Rothstein, by the way, is reporting that Clemson, San Francisco, Fordham, and Penn State will headline the Sunshine Slam in Daytona Beach.
Oh.
All right. Now, I will point out that when I was in Daytona Beach and in Jacksonville 10 days ago, I did tell them.
Yeah.
Right. So I said, this is when it's going to be. I think it's the Monday, Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. Because I already talked to the people at Playfly about this I don't know. When did I meet with them? A month ago?
Been a little bit, yeah.
A little bit, 5 weeks ago I met with them. And I said to them, look, there'll be they were talking about travel. And I said, look, there's a game at Minnesota. I said, which I'll fly out for on Friday night with the team, do the game, fly back. I said, but I'm going to need a commercial flight to Daytona on that Sunday to do the Monday, Tuesday games, and then I'll fly back with the basketball team on that Tuesday night, Thanksgiving. Okay, great. That way they were ready to go. So, in other words, this has come out. All right, there we go. The San Francisco Dons. How about that? And, of course, Fordham. That's Keith Ergo's team. Dick and I, before Fordham played St. John's, Penn State had played its game with Georgia Tech, and, of course, the total, complete officiating ripoff at the end. We went down and we saw Keith in the Fordham locker room, and it was so great to see him, and he was thrilled, to see us, and we talked to him for maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then it was time to go over and see Rick Pitino because they were playing St. John's. All Rick wanted to talk about was horses because Dick was there. But, yeah. There you go. It looks like Froggy Goodmanson's going to go to Campbell. Now, I knew that was one of the first places he was visiting, so he's going to go down to Campbell, down in South Carolina, and that's great. Happy for him. So that's, because he's found a landing spot. And there you go. But, yeah, Clemson, San Francisco, Fordham. The good news is a lot of those Clemson guys are leaving.
Yeah, that's true.
Look, I already saw him in person. Goodness gracious. And that was
bragging
2
rights
years
on
ago.
Fordham, too. First cousin went to Fordham.
Yeah. Hey, how about I know Penn State baseball didn't win last night.
The crowd, yeah, absolutely, 5,000 plus.
They had over 5,000 last night. That was Dollar Dog Night. Right, and there's a great picture of you getting a dozen of them.
Giving them all away too, because I'm in the Brian Tripp category. I don't really eat hot dogs.
Yeah, but see, you're easily like taken in by the promotion.
By the promotion.
Yeah. And yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, I like the I think one of the best things that Packcraft did was
Made it
open
free.
up, absolutely, make the free admission. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I've said this about wrestling. And by the way, just so people know, one quick note on wrestling. You do know there are some tickets available for the Olympic trials.
Olympic trial, yeah.
Like, everybody thinks it's sold out.
No.
It has not been sold out.
Get your parking ahead of time too, for the record.
But if you want to go, they've got some seats they have some seats for the weekend. But for the most part, Penn State wrestling, they've made it affordable. Doesn't mean there have been ticket price increases and things like that. And we all know, okay, it's well documented, maybe well documented, but I swear when it comes up, it's not well known. But it's well documented, for example, that that it's not a moneymaker.
Right.
Okay. All right. Oh, it's impossible to sell it. Well, look, they keep the tickets reasonable. And Kale would rather have it sold out and have the atmosphere.
I agree.
Well,
Absolutely.
they just did the same thing for baseball. Let's just get people in there. That's fine. You're not going to make money on it anyway. What are you going to? You have to make the decision of pennies on the dollar. And this is something that that when you look at the TV contract, then the new radio deal that Penn State made, okay, the dollars are going to be there. Now, you will see in the next reporting cycle, which will be around February or whatever, some of the new TV numbers are going to be in there, but the new radio contract will not be because it goes to fiscal year on the 30th. Then the year after, you're going to see the radio numbers in there to go with an increased number with TV. It's okay to sit there and look at, do we need to gouge and make pennies on the dollar in baseball, or let's get people in there? They're getting people in there. It's a smart move to make. Very smart. Now, you, of course, somebody told me you spent $12 on dinner last night.
Hey, it's always good to be tight with a buck.
Yeah. That's you.
That's right.
Then going around now, I thought it was, to be frank with you, then you tried to sell them for $3 each.
Well, you skip the line when you're able to do that, though.
I'm telling you.
Can't believe campus police said they wanted to talk to me. I just didn't understand it.
Oh, I did. I turned you in. I had to turn you in.
Then the standing ovation as I was escorted out, tell you.
Well, people love you.
Playing Hit the Road, Jack. I can't believe it. I had my own theme song for the first time.
People love you. That's what I would take it as. That people love you. Yeah, you got your Sixers shirt on tonight. So let's see if your guy Embiid can come up big.
Yeah.
Let's just see.
Gonna need it.
Because he's been a problem. And the reason he's been a problem is, and I've outlined this, I think the easy way out has been to blame Ben Simmons.
Right.
The easy way out has been to blame James Harden.
Mm-hmm.
Yet what's been the common denominator in the Sixers not getting far in the playoffs?
Right.
He's the one constant.
Yeah.
And you start looking at the numbers, his numbers are down dramatically. And the deeper he goes into the series, the more his numbers go down. I mean, his numbers in the seventh and deciding game
weren't good.
Are not good.
We're not good.
Right? And it's like, okay. It's something where this is the time of the year that you need to have your stars be the stars. That's why they are stars, happen to be this time of the year. I was talking with Keith Pompey of the Philadelphia Inquirer yesterday. Speaks very highly of you, by the way. And he said he was talking to somebody about he was talking to a player about the difference between the regular season and the postseason. So in the regular season, you kind of go out there in the first half, you're playing whatever, you're doing your thing. He says, and then all of a sudden you get to the second half, they're rotating guys in and out, and then you play and do your thing. He said, then when 6 minutes to go, he says, now everybody locks in, try and win the game.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm telling you, this is what the player said, and
he's
not
not
honest
wrong.
player.
Yeah.
The difference is in the playoffs is the first 6 minutes of a playoff game are like the last 6 minutes of a regular season game. And then the first 6 minutes becomes the second 6 minutes, and then that becomes the next 6 minutes. It's all the way through. It's, when you're talking about 8 6-minute segments, all 8 6-minute segments are equivalent to the one final 6-minute segment in a regular season game. In terms of the intensity.
Yeah.
That's just that's the
That's
difference.
the tone of it,
There is no like, no.
Mm-mm.
Says, got to get mine.
No.
No. The intensity is completely different. And that's what this player told him. And look, it makes complete sense.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Based on what you see, it makes sense. I mean, let's face it. You see it out there. And it makes a big difference in terms of the quality of play. That's why the regular season, I know regular season numbers are up. I know that 10 franchises had 41 sellouts this year. I know they drew a record number this year of fans. What was it, 2.5 million fans, something like that they drew, which is a record. That's great. All right? Except the product is, the product is not the same in the regular season. No. Meanwhile, Pennsylvania is not going to be represented in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
How about it?
Penguins missed 2 straight years. Flyers miss again.
Now, the big question, did Tort pull that goalie to say the heck with you Penguins is the question. I feel like he did.
What? No, he's trying to win.
He is trying to win, yeah. But, no.
Look, you don't...
But,
nobody plays to lose.
No.
I mean, if you're involved
and you're in a
game,
spot there where you need to win, Ty wouldn't have done you any good.
Right.
Yeah, and that's... Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was surprised. I think the Flyers, it's strange to say, but I feel like they overachieved a little this year. I thought they played well. I think they have something to build on. Penguins, on the other hand, I think on the flip side, there's a lot of question marks now. What do you do to this team otherwise now that is going to make them a better team.
They have a lot of questions.
Not the moves at the deadline were questionable, and I don't think they helped.
I talked to Josh Getzoff, and he explained, we talked about the Gensel trade, and he said, well, the guy that they acquired, helped them in a lot of ways. But look, no offense, but I understand Josh is taking the company line.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got that. I understand that part. But the Gensel trade was damaging.
I agree. There's no, in my opinion, for sure.
Yeah. It was damaging. And I think that Gensel, to me, was a guy that you build around.
Mm-hmm.
He's not just a part that you deal. So I still am not quite sure why they did what they did. I was really surprised they did what they did with him. And now they're going to make decisions. So let's start with the three veterans. Crosby had not a good season. He had a great season.
Great season, absolutely.
I mean, Josh legitimately gave me, he said, I can make a case that if I'm having a ballot, he said, they're not allowed, his broadcasters are not allowed to vote.
Right.
He said, I would have voted him fourth. Nathan McKinnon being one. Okay. He said, I probably would have voted him fourth. Because you watch, Crosby had not just a good season, Crosby had a great season at both ends of the ice. He's become a much better face-off guy. As a defender, he is very underrated and underappreciated. I mean, he'll back check, he'll make plays for you, he'll help you out when you're shorthanded. And I thought offensively, he had a great year. Then there is Chris Letang. Letang's averaged nearly 25 minutes a game. This guy's playing 40% of the game. He averaged just a shade under 25 minutes a game and was a plus 14 plus minus this year. Right? Now, Malkin's a different story. Malkin is very much up and down. When he's on his game, he's terrific. There are too many nights right now at this stage of his career where he's not on his game. It's not making as big a difference as he used to. And I'm comparing Geno Malkin to Geno Malkin,
right,
in his prime. I'm comparing him to himself. All right? I'm comparing him to himself. Which means I am comparing him to the standard that he set and he established. And that doesn't mean, that just tells you what kind of a great player happens to be. Now they have to make a major decision as to what to do with him and then others, because they need a major overhaul here. Mm-hmm. I know they were close to the playoffs this year, but close shouldn't be that. Okay, the Penguins,
with that talent,
the Penguins should not be in that close spot. They should be at minimum playing in the 4-5 round against 4 versus 5 in a bad season. When you have Crosby on your roster, Letang, and so forth. The goaltending was good, but I felt the goaltending at the beginning of the year was better than it was in the latter part of the year. And so they've got to make some decisions. Now, Jari, and I actually made this point to Josh Getzoff about Jari. He said, yeah, he signed that 5-year deal. I said, Josh, you know what I find with guys that sign that kind of contract? Mm-hmm. They spend the first year, and this is Trey Turner, right, with Philadelphia baseball. So they seem to spend that first year trying to justify the deal they got. Yep. And they play tight.
No question.
It's the second year where they just relax and just play, and they play more like themselves. I said, let's see how he plays next year, because I said there is a distinct possibility.
Yeah.
That he'll play better next year.
I think Philadelphia is a little bit of a different animal, just in the sense that
they're not. I mean, they're better than they were. They're just not good.
No, absolutely. And and when you touch on, you talk about, Turner, I think, and even Harper to an extent, first month, once he got into that groove, he was a different player. And Turner obviously gets that standing ovation. He becomes a different player too.
Yeah,
I think in a lot of ways because it helped him relax. Absolutely. Yeah, I think ultimately there are certain towns I think that are just there are different animals when it comes to that. I think Philadelphia is one. I think New York obviously is another one. I think Los Angeles is another one. I think Ohtani has settled in just because I think the familiarity. He obviously played in Anaheim. But I think there are a lot of towns, I think I even make the argument, you go to Houston, I think that is a little bit of a difference. And James Harden and Tracy McGrady both. But to me, I think there's a couple towns that are different animals. But once you adjust, you become the player. Absolutely, I agree. I think you spend that first couple months trying to justify, okay, here's why I deserved what you don't think I deserved because you don't think I'm overpaid. And absolutely, they settle in and they adjust.
Well, I mean, but they settle in and they're just more relaxed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
I mean, where you're just like
A-Rod, another prime example in New York.
Yeah.
Yes, he got assistance, I know, but still was a better player. And postseason in 2009, he was a better A-Rod than a playoff A-Rod 2 years prior.
Or in 3,
or
in 4.
In 4, yeah,
in 7,
absolutely.
Whatever. It's like, okay. And pressure is something that, again, that's financial pressure. We see that. We've seen that for years, and baseball's been a prime example of it because they were the first ones to really do the free agency thing, and you kept noticing that over and over again. That okay.
I think to me it sticks out more than anything in baseball on the long-term deals. And the 10-year deals are the deals where I think it really sticks out. I'm not sure Pujols ever adjusted in Anaheim. I'm not sure Cano ever adjusted in Seattle.
Cano.
Yeah, and then these guys.
Yeah, but those deals.
Mike Hampton.
But both those.
Another example.
But all those deals you're talking about, no offense, made no sense.
No, they were 30 years old at the time they signed them.
Yeah, but they made no sense.
No.
Okay.
No, you get into a bidding war. Pujols was at the time he signed it one of the top 5 in baseball. There's no question. But he was 30 years old.
But
that was the problem I had with it.
It made no sense to me. It's the length of it. It's not the money.
Yeah,
it's the length of the contract.
Yeah. The problem is the competition you have in baseball. That's exactly the people that are willing to offer 8-9-year deals. And I don't agree with them.
Don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't agree with them.
I mean, now I realize that
the Cardinals didn't. They openly said, "Hey, we're not giving you this length of a deal."
And guess what? The Cardinals
were just fine. Yeah, you bring in Matt Holliday, you go to the World Series.
Because what they did was they took the money they would have paid Pujols and they rolled it into 3 players.
Beltran.
They rolled it into 3 players.
Yeah.
Right. And so let's talk ideology and let's talk realistically. If I'm running a baseball team, in terms of ideology, I would never give a position player more than 5 years. I would never give a pitcher more than 3. Would not. Realistically, does that allow me to compete? I don't know. Because when I look at Albert Pujols, okay, great player, but 10 years? I look at Robinson Cano.
Solid hitter.
Good player.
Yeah, solid hitter.
Lousy fielder.
I was going to say, I don't know what to say defender.
Okay, yeah. Makes no sense. Dustin Pedroia, 8 years. Well, Pedroia was, tough, hard-nosed guy, but then on the slide at second base by Manny Machado, his career, essentially, that ends his career.
Yeah.
He tried to come back. He ended up getting his money, but, that's a case of like a guy who's in his prime but can't keep going.
Yeah.
Right? The number of pitchers that you see over and over again. We're going to give what the Phillies give Zach Wheeler?
A 5-year deal initially, right? And then just extended him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, he gets 3.
Yeah.
Because I just don't know.
The prime example of that is the older guys. Verlander signs with the Mets. He's traded mid-season.
Yeah.
Scherzer, same. Yeah, Wheeler, I think you can at least make the argument that he's earned it. You know, I still wouldn't. I agree with you. I still not sure I'd give him more than 3 years, but Wheeler has been the ace for the Phillies consistently for the last 3 years.
Okay, he's earned it if he's with the Astros.
Yeah,
with the Mets, you're rolling the dice and guessing.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't earned it with you.
Wheeler?
No, I'm talking about Verlander.
Oh no,
right?
No,
he hasn't earned it with you.
Mm-mm. No,
right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I see him in Houston. Let's see what he can. Now, say he re-signed with Houston and he got a big one. It's like, hey, look, you've been great for us. You've earned this, right? Meanwhile, you're the Mets. He hasn't done anything for you.
No, and he didn't do anything.
Right, and it turned out he didn't do anything.
No.
You're guessing at that point about what he can mean to you.
Yeah.
They had Scherzer.
Mm-hmm.
They had Verlander. And they ended up with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have either guy right
Nope.
now. Yeah, the long-term contract thing. I will give Harper credit. You feel like Harper's that one guy that every single game, if somebody pays,
struggling this year a little bit, but it's going to happen.
But Bryce Harper plays hard all the time.
Yep.
Right? He's not the kind of guy that gets it. He's not a guy that gets into a slump and doesn't sprint to first base. He's not a guy who gets into the slump and, hey, you take it on the pop-up. I don't need to go over there and do that. He plays hard all the time. Okay, I drew a walk. Well, guess what? I'm not going to jog this second. I'm going to run the bases hard. He's the kind of guy that fans gravitate toward because he plays the game hard. He doesn't take a day off. He doesn't take the game or the sport for granted.
Yep. And he allowed the Phillies to be expendable with Hoskins. That was a big part of it. He makes the move to first. Now, I still remember to this day Brian Cashman saying, why would we sign Bryce Harper? We'd have to essentially put him at first base. Who's going to do that? Well, the Phillies did it, and he's doing just fine.
Because guess what? He works
at it. Absolutely.
Okay? He works at it. And that's the difference. It's interesting. Certain players, I think, would surprise you about what they do away from the game. And I'll give you one. We all know that he had a couple of positive tests, all right? And that's Manny Ramirez. Okay. But when people weren't watching, what was he doing? Yeah. He was in the batting cage all the time. Yeah. And guess what else he did? He took hundreds of balls off of the left field wall at Fenway Park. Hundreds, trying to figure out how to play it, right? And everybody, Manny being Manny, he's a goofball.
Yes.
But he took the craft seriously. Unfortunately, he'll never get into the Hall of Fame.
No,
he's not.
No, there's a lot that will not.
Right, he will never make it.
The one thing I would add to that is I think there's a misconception and a misperception in a lot of ways. A lot of people think steroids makes a baseball player. No, I can list you 200 guys that took steroids. You don't even know their name. It takes talent to do what they're doing. I fully understand. It is an enhancer, and I'm with you on your. You can have the stance you have on it, for or against. I do not object to that, but
you're a product of steroids.
Didn't pay off for me. From a fan's perspective, I have never seen a baseball player have a better eye at the plate than Barry Bonds.
Right.
Not at all.
No question.
Now,
is he 762 home runs
no.
worth of?
If he doesn't, probably not.
Batting eye?
Especially the fact that he hits 36 years old and the slugging percentage goes this way. Right. There's no way. Look at aside from John Elway, who I think even declined in his Super Bowl year. There are very few that retire at the top of their game where you're not looking at them saying they declined.
Yeah.
Very few. Barry Bonds was one of those guys because, he had help. There's no question. I don't disagree with that.
Again,
but
Barry Bonds, to me, would have been a guy that probably would have cleared 500 home runs.
500 stolen bases, too, I think.
Would have cleared 500 stolen bases. Would have hit in the low 300s. And he'd be in the Hall of Fame.
Should have been.
Right? The fact that he's about 250 home runs beyond that?
Yeah, no question. Well, I go back to the night.
Doesn't quite sit.
And something I think that to this day, and I don't know this personally, but I think it was the case, 1998 race. Bonds, obviously McGuire and Sosa are in that race. Everybody's talking about them. Bonds had a career year that year.
Right, and he felt disrespected.
And he felt completely disrespected because of the race. And I think that was probably a big reason why.
But there's two parts to that. You miss a part. Okay? The race is definitely one. But the other part is he's playing in San Francisco.
Sure. Okay? Same reason Trout. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Chicago and St. Louis are in the central time zone. Everybody got to watch it. Meanwhile, he's playing at 10:30 at night.
10:30 at night. Biggest reason why people didn't know a lot about Trout.
That's why he's starting at 10:30 at night. In other words, he's hitting home runs at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, Eastern time. Nobody's watching it.
I agree.
Right, and that was the second part to what his issue is. That's why I think I don't know if it was you or Kyle. I said, but have you ever actually watched a full game Mike Trout's played?
I have, but it's not many. Yeah, it's not every night.
I mean, have you ever watched a full game Shohei Ohtani's played? I don't mean watching an inning or two. If you watched a full game where Ohtani's played, where Ohtani pitched, I mean, really? I mean, you see highlights of what he does, but have you actually watched a full game of him playing? Most people haven't.
I agree.
Right?
Even when your team is playing, Phillies are on the West Coast playing the Dodgers. People typically don't watch the full game.
Well, I mean, you fall asleep. And that's because, you fully admit you're completely bored by the Phillies.
Nothing to do with the schedule that awaits me the next day.
See, the first step toward recovery is admitting the problem. I mean, I'm glad you were able to admit it.
That's right.
I'm just telling you.
Bigger reason why I think at some point, and this is off topic but on topic, I think to me the NCAA championship has got to start earlier at some point. Starting that game, you're starting that at 20 after 9.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you're starting that very late. I think
I know you're running into the issue of the West Coast.
Sure, I get it too, but there's no reason why you can't tip off at 7:30 or 8 o'clock.
Which means it's 6:20 there. So that's the issue.
Yeah.
Also, what men's basketball has to do, I feel like since Zion Williamson, men's basketball has had stars, but they have not
had that one guy that sticks out.
It's been the last guy, in my opinion, that was like, we got to watch it.
Yeah, got to watch.
Zach Edey's a star, but
not to that level. No.
He doesn't play like...
Not to that level.
UConn doesn't really... UConn has great players, but they don't have a star.
They have consistent players, though. Yeah, not a star.
Well, I mean, they're going to have 2 picked in the first round.
Absolutely.
I mean Castle's going to be picked in the first round, and I think Donovan Klingen's going to be picked in the first round.
I agree.
They're going to have 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, that was the distinct advantage the women's game had this year. Absolutely.
Right, and then you go back last year. You had UConn, Florida Atlantic, Miami, San Diego State.
Nobody.
I mean, as nondescript a Final Four as you could ask for in terms of brand names, UConn being the brand. I mean, they've won more national championships in the last 25 years than anybody has.
Absolutely.
But, San Diego State, okay. Yeah, I see Ledee out there playing. He played against Penn State when he was at Ohio State. Right? Florida Atlantic, nobody knew anything about them except, hey, this is kind of neat.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's kind of neat, but nobody knows anybody. And, of course, Miami had, a lot of those guys, like Isaiah Wong and some of those guys played against Penn State in the Jordan Center before they got Denzel Pack. But they don't, okay, they didn't bring any. Now, this year you had 2 1s. You had Purdue and you had UConn facing each other, but it was on TBS.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, and I realize you need the TBS component because that gives you the extra financial oomph to put it over the top. I got that part. And you're right, they need to start it at a different time. Everybody's felt that for a long time. I mean, the game should essentially start at 8 o'clock Eastern time.
Yeah, I agree.
Right, and there's, suck it up on the West Coast. 5 o'clock. 47% of the population lives in the Eastern time zone.
Yep.
Right? That's why it's important that where Eastern time has to really, you can't be kowtowing too much to the West Coast.
I agree.
I mean, you can't be. But the NCAA has had this 9:20 thing forever. I mean, it's not like here's one for you. Why don't you start at 9:05? Right? Yeah. Give yourself 17 more minutes. Like, make it go from 9 to 11.
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
Yeah.
But no, we got to do the bill. I mean, I realize you're selling this, but that's why God created 8:30 to 9.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's
all right. You can use that.
And the World Series has done a better job of that. They basically said, we're starting this thing at 7:30. We're starting this thing at 8 o'clock. We're not going a minute later.
Right.
And they've done a great job, really, since about 2010 on. Well, they've done a great job.
Again, you cannot kowtow to the West Coast because, first of all, the West Coast is not the big viewing area to begin with.
No.
It always has been like that. Why do they show up in the second and third inning at Dodger Stadium? Why do they leave Dodger Stadium after the seventh inning?
You're right.
Why? Hey, they like to go in, be seen, watch the game, go, oh, okay, fine. You know, same thing in San Francisco. It's all the way up in San Diego, up and down.
Oakland, forget it.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So you can't keep like catering to that. Look, I got 47% of the population in the East, right, and a significant population in, let's face it, the desirable Central Time Zone. Central Time Zone is great. You think about it. Hey, let's watch Monday Night Football. It's 7. You know, they start at 20 after 8.
So it'll be
7:20. Hey, great. You know, guess what? Game's over by 10:30. Right? Central Time Zone's always been great for that.
Yeah.
So you have 2/3 of the population of the country, if not closer to 75%, living in those two time zones. That's what you cater to.
I agree.
Right? And that the NCAA's got to do a better job of that.
No question.
And that's why I'm going to be very interested to see how the Big Ten handles the West Coast part of this. Because there's going to be a Friday night package.
Yeah.
So how often does the Friday night package include a West Coast team? What do you do with the Saturday night?
I was going to say, I feel like Saturday is going to have, in November especially, you're going to want those West Coast teams on Saturday nights.
Well, no question.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are guaranteed 5 primetime games in November in the Big Ten. Now, if you noticed last year, Ohio State played in November. Primetime. I think they played Michigan State.
Michigan State, yep. And then Penn State.
And, of course, Penn State
game.
and Michigan State, but that game was indoors at Ford Field. Okay. But now you have the opportunity in November with the 5 that you can play a game at USC. You can play a game at UCLA. Well, there's 2 of them, right? Then you know darn well USC and UCLA are going to play each other. So there's 3. Now, like the door now is open as to how you handle the other 2. And so having that part does help in terms of your scheduling with the West Coast. And, yeah. There you go. Well, another big show for you. I thought that this was actually one of your better shows. You actually made, there was some point about 32 and a half minutes in, you made a point. You probably don't remember what it was.
Probably not.
Yeah. Every time I get you away from talking about the 49ers, the show improves.
It helps. Helps a lot. Yeah. Less bitter.
Oh. Yeah. I'll say this, your 49er segments are entertaining because it just...
Brings out the tears.
Tears. Oh. You know, there are moments where you sit in this chair and you watch a grown man cry. There is an entertainment factor to it. You got your Sixers sweatshirt on here. I mean, in 2.5 weeks, you'll be burning that thing.
That's very possible.
Right?
It's very possible.
Do you have a Joel Embiid bobblehead?
Yes, the one the Blue Coats gave out years ago where he's throwing his hands up like this. Yes.
That does it for me.